If you work with horses at one point or another, you will encounter acute laminitis. Maybe you already have, or maybe it's happening right now and that's how you found this video. In that moment, most people, even horse pros, can feel like there's nothing that they can do except wait for the vet and then wait until the horse heals. It's a hopeless feeling, even helpless. But there actually is something you can do right now, today, even if you've never done a single acupressure point in your life, even while you're waiting for the vet to arrive. Because acupressure is safe, non-invasive, and it can be done alongside, although never instead of, proper veterinary care. And while acupressure is never a replacement for the vet, it absolutely can be done while the vet is on their way to come and help the horse, or it can be part of the recovery process in between the vet visits. In the 30+ years that I've been teaching 5-element acupressure to equine pros across North America and Europe and beyond, I have seen these points make a huge difference. They come from the legacy of classical East Asian medicine, which is a tradition that has shared these points with practitioners for centuries. We've been sharing them with our students for decades. So these points are vetted, they are field tested, and they work. I'll even share some scientific studies that can prove their efficacy. Now, I have seen them used by body workers, vets, hoof care specialists, and trainers, and the results are consistent. They bring less pain, better circulation, and faster recovery. And who doesn't want that for the horse who's in that laminitic flare? So today I'm going to be sharing 3 different acupressure points for acute laminitis. They all work independently for pain relief, detoxification, and all sorts of other wonderful things. And for 2 of them, when you combine them in your session, they actually work together synergistically to create a special effect that's even more powerful. So stick with me and we will see all those points in action. But before we dive into all of the details, I definitely want to let you know that there is a free PDF that is the companion guide to this video. In that companion guide, you're going to see nice big pictures of where the points lie on the horse's body with instructions of how to find them and how to activate them. I'm even going to be sharing a special technique that allows you to do those points even if the horse is saying no thank you to any hands-on touch. There are still ways to activate those acupressure points, and I'm going to share it with you in that PDF. It's just down in the description box. But don't go get it quite yet. We have a lot of great point work to talk about, and you aren't going to want to miss it. So welcome back to this metabolic acupressure playlist. We have a whole series of videos that we're putting together for you so that all sorts of metabolic conditions like laminitis can be addressed with acupressure that makes a huge difference for the animals in your life. But before we take another step into this video, let's go over the ground rules because they're really, really important. The first thing that you absolutely have to honor is that if you are encountering a horse with acute laminitis, the vet gets the first call. Nothing happens until that vet gets the call. It is absolutely imperative that you get proper veterinary care for that animal. This can even be a life-threatening condition, and we don't want to go there. But when you're on the phone with your trusted vet, maybe they even know about acupressure or acupuncture already, maybe they don't, but ask them if it's okay for you to do these points while you're waiting for them to arrive. The reason why is it can reduce the pain and really encourage that relaxation, which will give the vet a better patient when they arrive. But again, if they say no, just wait. Get that first session with your veterinarian, and probably they will let you do the acupressure in between visits. You absolutely have to prioritize that veterinary care. That comes first. The other thing that is really important that we're going to be talking about in more detail a little bit later in the video is if you take these points out to a horse and the horse really says, no, thank you, it's not really all that surprising. This is because laminitis is a condition that tends to really be uncomfortable for the horse. Also, you may have a lot of kind of handling and fussing and messing with the animal, and the horse may just really have had it with having hands-on and being touched in general. Also, some of these points may be a little spicy when you do them for the first times, especially right around the time when the pain from the laminitis itself is the worst. So what we do have is another way to work with these points slightly at a distance. And I will go through how to do that exactly. And it's simple, but it's really, really effective. But I want to kind of lay that as a ground rule that your horse gets to kind of say whether or not they want to participate in these sessions as far as the hands-on contact. And if they say no and they don't want you to do the hands-on with the points, don't do it. You might be able to do it another day. You might be able to do it in a week. But just remember, there is another way to come at these points that is just as effective and really doesn't trigger that same kind of reactivity and response that sometimes happens around these points. All right, now that we have the ground rules, let's dive in. Let's talk about why acupressure is really an amazing method to bring into a horse's care when they have an acute laminitis. Why it is perfectly suited for your horse at this time. So let's be honest about this. The best time to learn these acupressure points for a laminitic flare is before the flare, because actually, as we visited in the last video in the playlist, we saw that there are acupressure points that can help regulate and normalize the entire metabolism and all these metabolic drivers that can set the laminitis off. So obviously, if we can avoid it at all, that is the perfect situation. We would love to never get to a place where we need the acute laminitis points. But when you're not there, the next best time to get these points into your fingertips, of course, is right now, during the flare. Because, of course, this condition is really uncomfortable. It's not something that we ever want to see our horse have to go through. And because once a horse has had laminitis once, they're very likely to have it again if certain, lifestyle protocols, etc., aren't put into place. It's really common to have recurrence. We want a toolbox, and we want to be able to use a toolbox that feels good to the horse. So the challenge, of course, is that when you are dealing with laminitis, a lot of your normal horse activities kind of shrink to the next, thinking about the next vet visit. There's all sorts of day-to-day care that you have to do to make sure that that horse is doing the right thing. You have to kind of change their day-to-day patterns. You may really feel that it's kind of taking over what had been your plans for doing a trail ride or your plans to go to a show and do a nice competition, and it's turned it into kind of this whole medical thing. And what we love about the acupressure is that this is a non-invasive method that can really not only make your horse feel better because it gives them relaxation and it relieves pain and it helps that metabolic change kind of start to normalize. It's also a way for you to be with your horse that isn't kind of medical. It's not having to put, yourself into kind of nursemaid for your horse. You're there just to connect and give them a sense of relief and connection, and that's great for both of you. It's that chance to kind of take a breath from the whole recovery process that's going to take a little while for most horses. Now remember, when we're looking at what your veterinarian is going to suggest as protocols for the horse to get through a laminitic flare, a lot of times what you're talking about is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. That's pretty common. And while of course that is going to take the horse out of some level of pain, which is a good thing, those kinds of medications also come with some trade-offs. They can cause ulcers if they're used too long, and they kind of go in and just have other effects on the body that are not always so desirable. So anytime that we have other methods that can help the body through this process as quickly as possible and to reduce pain as much as possible, obviously that's a good thing. So there's a lot of talk right now about using new interesting ways, or some of them very old, because of course acupressure is thousands of years old, ways to help the horses that doesn't cause ulcers, that doesn't kind of bring certain toxins into the body, and instead helps the body regulate and normalize, maybe even faster. And so just understand that acupressure is an incredible tool in the toolbox. Of course, it never replaces all of the great tools that conventional medicine brings to us, but it can be an incredible tool to kind of boost that recovery process, and also to empower you to feel like you have something that you can really do to help that animal recover. So if acupressure is going to be part of our toolbox, what exactly do these points do? And all three of the points we're going to be talking about in this video have kind of overlapping functions. And there's no one that's better than the others, and sometimes we can combine them into a really nice combo. It can be very flexible, but every single one is going to be a point that is known for centuries as helping with pain relief. And of course, in acute laminitis, that is one of your primary concerns. Now, as you get further into the process and you're more kind of dealing with kind of the late stages of the recovery process, you can shift your points. You can begin to tailor those points to that horse's specific metabolism and temperament, that 5-element concept that we talked about a little bit in the last video. And that's really exciting to get to that customization part. But when you're in this acute, it's really emergency care, right? The big thing that we're looking for is just points that relieve pain. That is our primary objective, because when the horse is just feeling better and the pain isn't so strong, obviously everything goes in the right direction. But these points do more than just relieve pain. They are also known to reduce inflammation, definitely a good thing, and improve circulation to the hooves. Now, obviously, when we're moving that circulation through, we want the right level. So it regulates that circulation through the hooves. It also, all of 3 points here have the ability to reduce heat. And if there's some fever that is associated with this condition, yes, these points, especially large intestine 4 and liver 3, are going to be particularly good at dealing with a fever if your horse has a high temperature. Similarly, those same 2 points are amazing, amazing points as detox. Now, the detox process is going to be part of that recovery. Part of it is kind of processing through the metabolic byproducts of the disease process. And it may also be that the body is needing to detox if there's been some really heavy-duty medications that have been used, which in the short term are absolutely what that horse needs, and yet in the long term we want to make sure that that is cleared from the system so the body can get back to a healthy balance. But the other thing that's so nice about these 3 points even though we already have plenty of reasons why it's so good to use the acupressure, is that these points calm the nervous system. So there's an emotional component to all of these laminitic flares, and that's the horse just doesn't feel good. They may feel fearful. They may feel kind of angry and contained and like, let me out of the box. They may have all sorts of kind of emotional stress. Depending on their temperament, they'll have different flavors, but it's stressful when you feel bad. And these points can really calm and soothe the nervous system, and that is good for them. It's also really good for you. Now, what we have seen for years is that whenever you do acupressure on a horse that's in a situation with like maybe an open stable or a place where other horses that can come by, or dogs or cats, they often will, because being in the field of an acupressure session feels good to everyone. And a lot of the horses will want to come by and stand nearby and kind of soak in the good vibes, as it were. And so what we see is, we get this, again and again from our students, is that when you're doing these sessions with the horse with the laminitic flare, you feel better too. And we know the people who are caring for these horses that they care for so much, it's stressful. They're maybe worrying about how expensive it is for the vet bills, or how their plans have been changed. But the big thing they're doing, of course, is just worrying that their beloved horse is going through a hard time, and they really feel for that. And so all of these sessions that we do with these points are not only going to have these amazing physiological effects, which I described, like pain relief and reducing inflammation, it will also calm the nervous system, both for the recipient, the horse, as well as the person who's doing the points. So for those of you who are equine pros, you may not even be a body worker or someone who really works with acupressure on a regular basis, but knowing these points and sharing them with your clients allows them to kind of get a secondary effect of the acupressure. So you can teach them those points and they will feel better too. They'll watch their horse relax. They'll watch their horse feel better, even if it's just temporary. And obviously that's just going to be a good thing for them. Now, we have a couple of guidelines that we want to give you about doing these points. For example, we want to keep those sessions really short. Now, if I go out and I see a brand new client and it's kind of a maintenance kind of thing, I'm often going to do as long as an hour or an hour 15 for my session. So I might do massage and stretching and point work, and it stretches out over quite a long time. But when you have a horse that is in the middle of a laminitic flare, they may be open to a session that long, but probably not. It's actually much, much better to go ahead and do really short sessions, and if you can, do them often. If you are fortunate enough to have the horse on your property and you can go out 2 or 3 times a day, you can even do these little 5-minute sessions several times a day, as long as the horse is still receptive and still really liking it. And it's kind of like it keeps nudging the system back in the right direction. But if your horse is farther away and you're caring for them, maybe you can only go out every day or every couple of days, it's not a problem. Just do it as frequently as you can, but still keep those sessions short. I would still say, 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes. There's no need to go longer when the horse is getting repeated acupressure, because every time you do the points, you're kind of pushing it down in the right direction, and things are going in the right way, and you don't have to do these big long things like, oh, where am I going to find time for an hour of acupressure? It's just not necessary. 5 minutes done on one side and the other with these points that we're going to talk about, that's all you need. And you literally can get that done in anywhere from 3 to 6 minutes if you want to, or stretch it out a little bit longer if the horse is enjoying it. So short sessions, 1 to 3 times a day, ideally if you can, and really let that horse guide everything. So if the horse is telling you, I am sick of being touched, I'm sick of being messed with, I don't feel good, that's fine. We have another way to go about it, and I'm going to talk about that very shortly. But absolutely honor that response. Now, if a horse gives that sharp response, something spicy, kicking, biting, something like that, or just kind of moving away, saying, no, thank you, they're allowed to do that. It's their body. They're allowed to tell you when they don't want to receive this. It's not a problem. The beautiful thing about the acupressure is, although we love touching the points and we love having that physical contact, and it's very, very effective, it's actually just as effective to step back and either hold your hand over the point, kind of like a hover over the point, or you can, like I said, step back. You could be even, 2-3 meters away, and actually, just like, you see in a superhero movie or something, you can send energy either with the palm, or sometimes people like to kind of send it with their finger to the point. And if you just get in a nice meditative state and you breathe and get calm and grounded and you send that energy through the airwaves, it's amazing how the horses will often have just as big of a response to your point work as if you were actually physically contacting the point. So don't feel that you got to force the horse to do it. It's not about that. This is respecting the horse's needs and preferences. And if they're saying, I don't want physical touch, that's, you have a way around that. There's even more information about this no pressure acupressure approach in the PDF. So again, when we get to the end, make sure you go down there into the description box and get that PDF, because it's going to give you all sorts of little details about how to do it. All right, what else do we have to say? If you want to kind of expand your toolbox, there are also relaxation points that we have in one of our easy acupressure handouts, and I will include the link for that in that PDF, and that way you can even build that toolbox even wider. So you'll have the 3 points that are specifically for laminitic pain that we're going to be talking about today, but there's all sorts of other kind of general relaxation points that can be really, really helpful for horses that are in pain and they're in stress and they just really kind of need a break. And so just know that those are also available for you. Totally free. These are PDFs that we just love to share with people because they make horses feel better. And there's also, in that one, there's also the locations for the dogs and the cats as well. Now, for those of you that are a little bit more advanced with your point work, just understand that when you dive into the theory, yes, you can get more sophisticated with your point selection. You can begin to really tailor your point choices to the individual, but that takes a deeper level of commitment and study. And so if you're ever interested in really going in and diving into these incredible theories, of course, you can join us in our certification program and go from one course or all the way through our entire certification program to graduate and become a practitioner. But just understand that you don't have to. The starting place is right here. We like to call these starting points because they are points that you can get started with, and they have beautiful results. It's not shirking your duty at all. It's actually a way to really help your animals. So that kind of covers some of the basics about how and why we're using these points. Now, I've already been talking about your toolbox, how to use these points, what they're used for, but there may still be some of you that think, I don't know about this acupressure, Susan. Does it actually even work? So instead of taking my word for it, because yes, we have 30 plus years of experience using this with animals across the globe, actually, it's not only been seen by us and by practitioners of classical East Asian medicine for literally centuries, it's also been proved by modern science. And so if you go online and you read, oh, it's obviously just made up, it's just, it has no science, they just haven't been looking at the scientific studies. There are literally hundreds of studies now that have been done in the past about 40 years to show the efficacy of acupoint work on humans and animals. And there is no doubt anymore. It has been proved without a doubt that these points have a very powerful effect on the physiological balance of the human body and your horse's body. Now, when we look at these studies, there is one of the points that we're going to be looking at. Large intestine 4 is actually one that has been studied almost as much as any other points. There's one other point that actually has been studied more, but large intestine 4 is right up there at the top. And so what's interesting about this point is not only do we see the results just from our hands, and that's usually enough for me, is just seeing that it works, but just know that there is a ton of science behind the efficacy of large intestine 4. But there's also science behind liver 3 and spleen 21, which we're going to go over very shortly. And know that I have included some of these studies, these laminitis studies for acupuncture and other acupoint work in that PDF. So if you're still kind of on the fence and you're kind of going, I still don't know, just head over to that PDF, because you will see a whole list of studies that are specifically for horses with laminitis. If you go beyond just the laminitis topic, again, you can literally get into the hundreds, if not thousands, of studies that have been done on humans and animals for just about every condition that you can think of. So there is science behind it. So if that helps your brain kind of get behind all of this, use that, because it is absolutely proven. It's almost time to dive into those points and to talk about what they will do for the laminitic horse. But right before we do, I just want to say that there are full details in that PDF. And there's going to be nice big photos of where those points are and how to activate them. So just understand that we're going to talk about what these points do, but the how and the why, all of that is going to be in that PDF for you. I really encourage you to get that PDF, to download it, print it out, and put it in your tack box, put it in your car, have it available, and if you can, it's even better if you kind of try those points out ahead of time so that you know where they are, and then when a crisis time occurs, you are ready to act. You're not trying to teach yourself those points in that moment. You'll be able to just dive right in and really do right by your horse. And just understand that with these 3 points, you do not have to do all of them in each session. You can, if the horse is liking it and it's seeming to go really well for both of you, do it. No problem there at all. But if you feel like you do 1 point and the horse kind of says, that's enough, stop there. It's totally fine. There is nothing that says that you have to keep doing all of these points or some other protocol. Absolutely listen to the horse and let them guide your session. So our first point is large intestine 4, which we call let it go. And the reason we call it let it go here at Elemental Acupressure is this point is best known for clearing things out of the body that shouldn't be there. And that might be pain. It might be clearing in the sense of detoxification. It reduces tension. It's something for draining negative influences, shall we say, from the body. And that in this situation is absolutely going to mean that it's going to remove tension and pain. Of course, if a horse is going through pain in their feet, They are going to be tensing throughout the body. It's not just going to be tensing in one area. The whole body feels uncomfortable. Think of maybe if you've ever had a toothache or some sort of pain in the body, and your whole body kind of crunches up because you just don't feel good. And this is a point that's really good for reducing that overall body tension. But it's not only that. Let It Go also regulates the circulation of blood and qi, and that's energy basically, to the hoof and throughout the body. And so it's going to help with this whole process of taking healing nutrients to the laminae, so things can, all the healing process can be happening. And also it will help with that circulating away any metabolic byproducts that are part of that healing process as well. So this is really, really wonderful to keep bringing in good nutrients and taking out the garbage with every beat of the heart. Now, large intestine 4 also releases heat and inflammation. It's again one of those things that it kind of drains the body of things that aren't helping out much. And it may absolutely be in your laminitic horse that they have heat, they may even have a slight fever, and that kind of inflammation can be reduced by the use of large intestine 4. This is also a point that's actually been used a lot for lameness very successfully because, again, it releases that inflammation and allows that horse to start walking more correctly in a lameness situation because they feel better. And in this situation, of course, we are removing the inflammation that is within the hoof capsule. This point, as I mentioned, is also amazing for detoxification. And again, that's not just metabolic byproducts. This is also about removing the medication residue from the body. And it also supports the immune system, which can kind of be triggered or compromised during this laminitic flare. And all of these things are going to go together with our next point, because actually, while this point is amazing and it can absolutely be used on its own, when it's used with the next point, it's like 1 + 1 = 10. But we'll get there shortly. But just understand that large intestine 4, or Let It Go, is the first point on the list. All right, you've got your first point in place. Let's look at the second point, because liver 3, or dynamic balance, is the perfect pair to large intestine 4, or Let It Go. These 2 points, there's 2 of them in the front. On the right and the left side, you're going to have the large intestine 4, and the liver 3 on the back leg in the right and the left leg. Those 4 points come together to make what we call the 4 gates protocol. So we're going to be diving in to take a look at why that protocol is so good. But let's look at liver 3 first, because it also functions perfectly beautifully on its own. Now, liver 3 is known for reducing stress and removing kind of tension and contraction. So, like if your body's all kind of cramped up because you're not feeling good, it's known for kind of soothing that body response and kind of helping the body be more relaxed. It also is absolutely known for relieving pain. And although 2 of the points there, the large intestine 4 are in the front leg and liver 3 points are in the back leg, these points are going to work throughout the body. So it really doesn't matter where the laminitis is showing up. All of these points are going to be good for all 4 feet if you're dealing with that, but no matter where the laminitis is occurring, you want to use the points in the front and the back leg. Now, liver 3 is also a really good point for detoxification, as well as for moving blood and qi. So I hope that you're seeing that these 2 points are actually very similar. But liver 3 does have its own take, its own special thing that it does. And one thing that it does is it has a special effect on the hoof and everything inside the hoof capsule. And we could get into the 5-element reasons why. For those of you that have studied the wood element, you know that the wood element is associated with the hooves. And so it kind of makes sense that this really powerful wood element point would have that effect. But you don't need to know that in order to put it in effect, and just know that this point is fabulous for hooves. And that means it could be good for shelly hooves or slow growing hooves or hoof cracks or abscesses, but it's also incredible for helping those hooves and the entire kind of hoof anatomy during a laminitic flare. Now, one of the things that I did start to talk about is how these 2 points, the liver 3 and the large intestine 4, come together to make a special protocol. And this is where we can really dive into the theory, because these 4 points, when they are used together, have a sort of reset button effect on the body. So think about yourself. If you've ever gotten into some sort of emergency, maybe you broke an arm, or I don't know, something happened to you, and it really seems to kind of scramble the whole body. Any kind of emergency like that, especially if there's pain involved or any kind of fear or agitation, it kind of hijacks the entire system and takes over. And what we want to be able to do is to not only to relieve pain and help with the metabolic waste products, etc. We also kind of want to reset the body so that it's ready to go into healing mode instead of staying in crisis mode. And these 2 points really help with that. So if you use them separately, they won't quite have that effect as strongly. But when you do them together, so right and left, large intestine 4, right and left, liver 3, and again, the locations in that PDF, what you are doing is kind of hitting the little red reset button on you see on an electrical appliance that kind of gets things going again. And this is the same for the horse. You're kind of telling the body, like, okay, you've had this situation, we're here to help, we're giving you the medications or whatever veterinary care that you need, we're making sure that kind of your environment is now suited to the healing process from your vet's suggestions and other, horse care professionals helping you get everything set in the right way. But then you're using the acupressure as that reset to calm the body, calm the nervous system, reduce the pain, but also to kind of say, okay, let's have a fresh start. Because going through these laminitic flares is not only painful, it's disruptive and it's stressful, emotionally stressful, not only for you as the handler, but definitely for the horse as well. And so when you have these techniques to support yourself, you're able to go in and do a reset each time you do those points. And it doesn't have to be this big effect. Just these little nudges in the right direction will really help the horse. So again, large intestine 4 and liver 3 are great on their own, but together they're even better. Now let's do our third and final point in this combo. This point is called spleen 21, or soothing flow is our name here at Elemental Acupressure. And this point is known for kind of delivering pain relief throughout the body. Now, like I said before, when a horse is going through an event like this, it can, the pain is not only in the feet. The tension, the stress, and just kind of the constriction within the entire body is part of this whole situation. So this point has a really beautiful effect for the blood and the chi flowing through those hooves, and encouraging that metabolic regulation coming back into the body as the healing process goes the way it does. But it also has this ability, it's really specially known for reducing pain system-wide, body-wide. And this can be really helpful as the horse starts coming out of the worst days of a laminitic flare. You may see, if you hadn't done these points, that they're bringing this level of kind of stress and tension and maybe stiff movement and all of that into their, past when the acute situation was really active. But this point allows that whole body to kind of relax, take a break, have a little bit of pain relief. Now, the other thing about this point is it connects and supports every single organ in the body. It's a very kind of generalized point. It's a point that really affects the body like system-wide. And so by doing this point, all of the organs have been under stress because the body has been flooded with all sorts of stress chemicals, etc., etc. This is the way that the whole body gets the message like, you're safe, everything's coming back to normal, you're gonna be good, and we are going in the right direction. So this is a point that is just the really beautiful kind of triangulation there with the large intestine 4 and the liver 3, because those are more kind of focused on the pain where the pain is strongest, whereas this point is more this overall body support. And between those 3 points, you have a really nice kind of systematic or methodical way to support the body in going through this process. Now again, we are going to choose different points as the horse comes out of this most acute phase and starts to go into the later parts of recovery, and we'll talk about that in a future video. But while we're here, just know that these are 3 points that are so, so beautiful for helping horses in this time. And whether you just choose one of these 3 or some combination of all of them, just know that the horse is absolutely going to benefit. Okay, we have covered a lot in this video, but let's sum it all up so we can see kind of what we've covered and also see where you might want to go next, because we definitely want to talk about that. So first of all, the big thing is that your laminitic horse, or a horse that you're caring for, if you're an equine pro, you don't have to wait passively for the healing to happen. You can be a part of that healing process. Of course, we absolutely laid the ground rules and said this is going to be integrated with the care that your vet is providing. You never do this instead of veterinary care. That's just foolishness. We want to absolutely have the best of the conventional medical care along with this incredible legacy of Chinese medicine. But just understand that with these points, you absolutely can be a part of that recovery process, which is a really wonderful thing. In fact, this point work time that you set aside with your horse or with a horse in your care may actually be a time for that horse to really bond with you and feel closer and connected, and that is a beautiful thing. We've got those 3 points that we've talked about: large intestine 4, or let it go, dynamic balance, or liver 3, and then spleen 21, soothing flow. And you can use them in any combination that works for you and any combination that works for the horse. Keep your sessions short, do them frequently, even daily if the horse allows, and if the horse is liking it and you can get, do 2 or 3 sessions, you can even do that. But again, follow the horse, follow your vet, follow your heart, and you'll find the right way. But remember, there is that incredible PDF that is just waiting for you to pick up. Just go down into the description box to get that document, because in that you're going to get all the tools that you need to carry out all of these amazing tools. But before you go, I want you to know that we will be coming back before too long, and we're going to be dropping the next video. In that video, we're going to be talking about what to do for the horse who is past this truly acute phase. So we're going to be looking at what do you do in the weeks and even months that are after that laminitic flare, so that you can deliver that kind of care that is suited to them, tailored to their needs specifically. And yes, we will start to get into that elemental differentiation, so that you can maybe, if all goes well and you've really set up their environment well and you followed your vet's advice, maybe we can have that be the only time that this horse encounters an acute laminitic flare, because by nudging them into a better place, maybe you're going to be able to prevent it from occurring ever again. Wouldn't that be amazing? But these points that we will be going over will absolutely kind of help that horse to optimize their health, optimize that metabolism, and set you up for as much success as possible. So stick around for that. Also, if you are subscribed to this playlist, not only will you get those other videos that we're going to do on laminitis, we'll also be doing a video on different kinds of laminitis, as well as PPID, which of course has such a metabolic link for the horse folks. And most horse folks also have dogs and cats in their life at some point. Maybe it's a dog at the barn or some cat that's waiting for you at home. And we have had metabolic issues for the small animals that have been just as prevalent as laminitis. So we're going to be creating videos dealing with obesity, diabetes, and even the cognitive decline that can be associated with these metabolic issues in small animals. So we absolutely have something here in this playlist for the small animal folks as well as all you horse lovers. So I'm Susan Tenney of Elemental Acupressure. I have loved sharing this information with you, and I can't wait to see you in our Facebook group and in our student groups so that you can tell us all your amazing stories of how these points is changing the lives of the animals in your care.